अच्छा ये लो देखा देख क्या ये वो अक्षय कुमार है खट्टा मीठा वाला चटते हैं तो जाता है
Good evening, everyone. I am Rashi, and today I'll be giving the webinar on the topic, a very insightful topic, SSR, that is often called server-side rendering, and CSR. This content hugely impact user experience, applications, SEO-friendly applications. So yes, so first I'll share my screen here. So first, what exactly is client-side rendering? So in simple terms, client-side rendering means JavaScript code rendered on the client side. So what by client side I mean that a code will be rendered on the browser itself, not on the server side. So how it will be rendered on the browser? So by downloading the JavaScript bundle using the build folders. So using CSR in React application or in Angular application, so like only the syntax will be different, but initial load might be slow when we are using client side rendering.
नया वाला लिंक शेयर कर देना मैं पब्लिक पर आने पे बैठी हूँ
So initial load might be slow, yes, and it is bad for SEO. So when we are using client side rendering, so it is bad for SEO because the search engines which are going to find the contents will not wait for the JavaScript to load. So that's why if a client needs that, they need to implement SEO, so there we should use SSR based applications, not CSR based applications. So using this diagram, you can see the initial rendering is happening on the browser itself, not on the server part. So yes, and coming to the part SSR, that is client server side rendering. So this is a technique for rendering a normal client application on the server and then sending a fully rendered page to the client. So by this I mean, like people might think that this process is two-way or lengthy, but SSR helps with performance, of course, because a fully loaded application, whether it is a very small application or a very large application, so it will be fully loaded application is sent down from the server on the first request. So yes, so just because it is coming down from the server itself, it is faster first paint, and it is of course great for SEO because whenever the server gets the first request on the server part, of course, so in by that time the HTML is ready, and that is because when we do view page source on the browser, we can just see the content on the page source. So by this manner, SSR is best for the applications which needs SEO. By this diagram, we can see that the initial rendering is happening on the server itself, and that is why it is quite fast as compared to CSR. So I'll just show a basic example using a project. So this is a React project. We can just apply CSR, of course SSR in Angular also, in other texts also. Just the syntax difference may be there. So yes, so in React, I'll show you like how the application will be rendered from CSR, then from SSR, and how the difference will be there, like what happens if the CSR data doesn't match with SSR data, right? So what happens and what is it called? So firstly, I'll render using CSR. CSR means the React DOM will be uh, uh, should be coming from the root. For this we use in React root dot render, right? And I'm just calling this app component, which is just a simple component that is home and about page is there. I'll show you. So this is just a normal page in which there is a home page and next is the about page, right? So how can we know that this is rendering from client side, rendering client side, right? So we can just see, like, if we will see in the inspect. So we can see in the network tab, there is no response there, and the content is not rendering from the server itself, right? So this means that the data is coming from the client side. Means rendering all the JavaScript bundle is going to be downloaded on the browser itself. And another example is that if we'll do view page source, so we will not going to see all the content here. Means if I'll just copy this and paste here, the content is not there because it is already rendered on the JavaScript part, on the client part, not coming from the server. So that is CSR for us, right? And for SSR, I'll show you, like, so it just simple is like, I've already written, like, the server doesn't send any React rendered HTML. It just sends a empty div ID root, which is already written in public folder. This one, right? So yes, so client renders React from scratch. So that's why initial load might be slow if we are working on a very vast application. So yes, this is an example of CSR. So here I am starting my project using npm run SSR for the SSR to work. So what's happening under the hood is, firstly the build, what the script will run. Firstly, the build will be created using npm run build, and secondly, this file should get running, right? So in the server folder, we can see there is an index file, and it just loading the Babel. I'll share what is Babel and Webpack later, and it just loading another file, that is server file. So this is a simple Express file. So we are just uh, starting our application using SSR. So using Express server. So the code is ready, and if we'll see here, so the content is loaded. So how will we know that this content is coming from SSR, right? Because the content is same, the page is loading perfectly. So if we can see in the inspect, so we can see the bundle is getting created here, and in the local host the content is coming from the SSR itself, means on the by the server part itself. So previously we saw, like, in CSR the data is not coming from the server. This was the blank page, and from SSR the data is coming from the server itself. That's why all the content we can see here, right? In the response also the code is there, and in the preview also the code is there. Okay, and just because SSR supports SEO, it is SEO friendly. So when we do view page source, so we can just see the content here, right? all the content is going to be wrapped here. That's why SSR applications is very much SEO friendly. So So there is a question for you all. Like you can just write the answers in the section. Like when we open a website and see a white screen for a second before anything loads, just a splash of second, I guess. So that is CSR or SSR. You can think, right? So how under the hood SSR working? Like client request a page, for example, the user page or home or about in my case. The server receives the request, loads the React component, whether any component or the whole application, fetches the data if needed, and the React renders to the HTML on the server using this function. So we can use various functions here, like React DOM server gives multiple functions for SSR to load. I'm using render to pipeable stream. So it just what it does is it just loading the app component, my whole component here, use and creating a static HTML from here. And so by this code, we are getting the static HTML from the server part. And then what happens is on the React part, on the client part, React application hydrates, means it picks from where it has been left. So how we use SSR in React.js? So we just use hydrate instead of render, as we all see, like here. Firstly, I use root.render, and here I use hydrate root function. So secondly, we use render to string function. I was using render to pipeable string, which is same, just a syntax difference. And secondly, we create a express server for that. So here I created a server. I'm listening on the port 3002. So just a server. And we configured all the Webpack and Babel. I already discussed, like in the index.js, I have written this code, like I'm ignoring the node model. And what this line does is, so by default, Node.js doesn't support ECMAScript, that is ES6. So in order to use these scripts, we configure here. So what happens is Babel transforms all the ES6 modules, features, everything into Node compatible code. And what Webpack does is it just bundles all the JavaScript files into one or multiple chunks file, which will be later used by the server itself to load the HTML static HTML files, right? So that's why we use this code. So people might think that if Node.js supports ECMAScript 6, then why Babel is still used? So for clarification, it is used when if we are supporting older Node versions, older browser itself, if we are using Node.js that is beyond ES6, which doesn't yet support, and if we are building front-end code that must work in every environment, then we should use Babel here. So under the hood, what Babel does is, which I have already written here. So right now in React, as we all know, we write syntax like this. So what under the hood Babel does is it just get compiles by Babel to this code, means the previous version in which should be understandable by the Node.js. So another question for you all, like, what do you think that loads faster on the first visit? Means whenever a user comes on the page for the very first time, initial time, which loads faster, CSR application or SSR application? You can think, right? So coming to the SSR again, so what it does is server sends a fully rendered HTML page to the browser, and uh, moreover, that page is not interactive because it is a static HTML page. So that's why for making it interactive, for making it support the browser DOM elements, so we use hydration, which we can see here. So I've already written this, like instead of rendering the app, because it has already been rendered by the server, we are hydrating our app, right? So React hydrates successfully and it just gives no errors and warnings. So here comes hydration. Like, what is hydration here? So what happens is, whenever the JavaScript bundle, that is main.js, you can see here, just because in package.json you can see first the build is created, then the server file is run, right? So in the build folder we can see there is a asset manifest.json file, and here we are defining the chunk file with the value and the key part, right? So here the file name is main.js, and if I see in my express file, the entry point is main.js, means it is picking the requested URL from this build bundle and returning the static HTML back to the client, and then client hydrates the application from where it has been left. So hydration on the client, yes. So when the JavaScript bundle loads in the browser, React runs on the client. So React hydrates the static HTML, which I already discussed. It attaches all the event listener, hooks, logics, everything functionality here. And now the page becomes interactive, just like a normal React application, just like a normal CSR application, right? So this is under the hood how SSR is working. It just sends the build to the server, requested URL, you can say, like about, home, contact, and gives back the static HTML of that page, which we can see here in the network tab, of course. And uh, hydration makes the page interactive. So, another question for you all, like, which method do you actually think sends HTML with actual content on the first response, CSR or SSR, right? So, and another question is, like, in which method does the browser download JS first before rendering anything? Like, what do you think? Like, CSR loads downloads JS JavaScript bundles first, or SSR downloads the JavaScript bundle first, right? So I already shared the two cases. First, I was rendering from CSR, then I was rendering from SSR, and I'll show you like what is hydration practically, right? So yes, on the client side, I have added this different module, which is just a function here with some usual content here, right? So from the client side, I am writing this, and from the server side, you can see in the server file, I wrote this. Means I am rendering this app component from here, and from the client side I'm rendering this different module, which is another component, of course, from here. So what happens is the client side content doesn't match with the server side contents, and that there's come hydration, means it will give an error that stating that the client side code, your content is not matching with server side content. So fix it, right? So yes, here we can see like the client side code is getting rendered. Why? Because we from the client side I'm calling this component. So the client side code is rendered here. So why the server code has not been run? Like people think, right? Because I'm from the server I'm calling this app component, and from the client I'm calling this different module component, right? So we can see in the error part. So in the console we can see like hydration failed because the initial UI, which is coming from the server itself, that is app component, doesn't match that was rendered on the server part. Like the data that the component app component that is coming from the server itself is not matching with the different module component which I have written on the client side. So this is hydration. Like there, we can see like there was an error while hydrating because the error happened outside of suspense boundary, and just because the data is not getting matched on the client side and the server side, so the entire route will switch to the CSR, That's why CSR content is getting loaded. We can see this is the CSR component which I have loaded here, and that's why server code has not been run. In the network error, in the network also, SSR is not loading. That's why again we see you need to enable JavaScript to run this application, and we are not going to see this component here, right? Because this is not SEO friendly. This is getting run by CSR and not SSR, right? So yes, this is hydration, because if we use SSR and CSR, if we are using SSR and we are hydrating our application on the client side, client part, so we should make sure that the content is same, the components which we are calling is same, because if it will not be same, that then it will give the hydration error. So to summarize, uh, what happens in Angular or in React application, of course. So there must be a syntax difference, but SSR is working like same in every applications. So firstly, we create a build. Like React application is compiled into build folder. Assets are created. Asset manifest.json file is also created, which we already saw here. Express server setup, like we serve static build files, reads that asset manifest.json to get that particular URL, and server renders React application to static HTML string, right? And it then when it comes on the browser part, it just injects the CSS, JS, assets URLs from manifest.json files, makes page interactive, and loads all the assets, and then hydrates the React application. So this is the whole flow how SSR is working under the hood if we are using SSR in our application. So yes, yes. If there will be any doubt, you can add in the comment section, of course. Thank you.